Hello and welcome to Full Tech Ahead. I'm your host, Amanda Razani, and with me today, I'm excited to have DJ Spry. He is the head of product for Aria Networks. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Doing well. So, first, let's talk about Aria Networks. Can you share a little bit about the services provided by Aria Networks and how you help your clients?
Yes, Aria Networks is a networking company that is building solutions specifically for those that are building out AI factories, AI clusters. So we have a suite of hardware and software designed to help organizations stand up, manage, operationalize, get time to first token, all of the AI things that exist. So we have a vertically integrated solution. We've pioneered this concept of what we like to call as deep networking, and that is this vertically integrated solution that has like deep technology all the way down into the like to the ASICs, the lowest level of the hardware to get telemetry and be able to perform actions and closed loop at like the very lowest layer of the network at the highest speed possible, which is critical for these AI workloads. And then being able to take that information all the way up through the stack and all the way up to a user interface and an agentic AI product that our users will operate with, that have a lot of the modern conveniences and a much more natural language interface, and have things like skills and be able to really take advantage of the data that exists at the lower level. And like either one of those, if you would take either of these two pieces in isolation, then you have a very fragmented solution. And like if you have an agentic interface but you don't have access to all the telemetry or at the rate you need or the rate that these AI systems demand, previous generations will have cannot collect the telemetry. They're very slow at it, and by the time an issue has happened, you don't even see it. So if you have an agentic interface and you don't have that, then you haven't really moved the ball forward. And the inverse has is like collect all the telemetry in the world. I mean, one thing is that we're able to generate more telemetry and data in these systems that outpace our ability to understand them. And being able to reason about all this data and then the telemetry, like collectively, that's what we want to do. So we provide these solutions, like to our customers to help them differentiate their business and get to market faster.
Well, then you're the right person to speak with for our topic today, which is the ever changing AI landscape and the infrastructure issues that business leaders are facing at the moment.
Yeah, that'd be
So,
great.
to get started, let's talk about the cost of AI infrastructure. It seems to be climbing by the day. And what I'm hearing a lot is the token use is it not going very far for projects, and it's getting more and more expensive. So, what are you seeing with your clients, and what do you have to say about this issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think token efficiency is I mean, it's a broad term that is an umbrella term and can be measured in many different ways, but it is a generally agreed upon concept that allows like businesses and companies to essentially measure like the return on investment in one dimension, right? Like there is it allows you to say like how much intelligence am I generating based on this large capital expenditure that that I've just rolled out. And it can be customized. And when I say it could be measured in many different ways, is that when we engaged, like the conversations that we have with our customers, like some customers or neo clouds that we engage with, maybe trying to differentiate their business and their portfolio on how quickly that they can give you a response. So today you interact with your like LLM of choice. Sometimes the response is delayed versus if you go to some businesses who are dealing with like voice as a service or something, you don't want that delay. So you have to deliver like tokens or intelligence very, very quickly. And others may have specialized models like genome or something else where they're trying to measure like their token efficiency on a different dimension. And it is like how large of a payload can we deploy back. And there's those like they have this like Pareto curve, this concept where like depending on where you are as a business and what products that you're trying to offer, that like token efficiency is a way for you to measure like how well that you are serving intelligence to back to your business, particularly when you've like you've laid out a large amount of money. Within that way, it is very important to track and to be specific based on like how it is that you're trying to differentiate on your business, because you don't want to, like like you don't want to track the wrong metric. And we work with a lot of customers and say, like where it is it that you want to be, because there's a lot of way that you can differentiate. Like you want to have some sort of competitive advantage or differentiation in your business. And so we work with them and identify like metrics directly impact or a result of like token efficiency in that specific way. And that's how we work with our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are some of the biggest AI bottlenecks or issues that are facing companies? And what do you recommend on how they get past those?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say that logistics supply chain is a bottleneck right now. I mean, there's a lot of, I would say, constraints inside in the systems for companies, and depending on where they are and what their businesses look like, it could be everything from like access to just like real estate and power, or it could be access to the hardware and solutions that that they're actually trying to bring to market. Yeah, I think that's a challenge that everyone's having, a bottleneck, and working with companies and providers that have access to the goods and to the hardware and to software that allow you to get to market sooner. I mean, it is. I think everyone have seen it now. The pace of innovation is just like staggering. And it's just every day, like I open up LinkedIn or X more often than not, because it seems like X is kind of like the heartbeat and pulse of AI these days. And like every day is just something amazing. It's hard for me to keep up, and I am in the industry. It's almost like you have to be unemployed to like keep up with everything, and the businesses have to move that quickly. So if you want to be in the market and you want to begin to take share, then you need to have access to, like not only to the capital, but to the resources that allow you to like get in production and start, like monetizing your business and your assets.
Absolutely. And it seems like many companies are struggling with old legacy technology and that the infrastructure they're trying to use isn't really working. So, where do they start in fixing this?
It's an interesting question because I mean, maybe if I take an analogy that I use is that every large like technology shift that we've seen, it required a completely different mental model or a completely different rewrite of the software and how we build, like applications and like the infrastructure to support those applications. And if I were to, create a very strong analogy that I've used before, is that for like 30 years after the invention of like electrical generators, we still use steam engines, and we just like kind of plopped the electrical engine and kept all of the the rest of the componentry for the steam engine in place, so we didn't see like any efficiency gains. And you could kind of see the same thing that happened with cloud and with the internet. And like for a while there, that people tried to take what they already know and like apply it to this new world. Like when cloud, hit the scene, everyone tried to, have virtualized infrastructure and try to run it into the cloud instead of building things that are more cloud native. And it wasn't until we, as an industry, learned like what are the patterns and how to really take advantage of this. You rewrote the whole stack and you deployed everything, like completely fresh and completely new. And so this is kind of an analogy to that, is that you have to, adopt technologies that are, that are built for this age, and in order to really gain the advantages out of it. Like you can't really use the technology of yesteryear because they were designed for different, like they are optimized for different solutions. So, like in infrastructure, in cloud, the applications were very resilient and they were like loosely coupled to the infrastructure underneath them. So applications could die and they could fail over and get spun up in some other, like VPC or some other region inside of your cloud provider du jour, and the end user wouldn't know it. In AI networking, that is very much the pendulum has swung the other way. These are very tightly coupled systems. It generally will drag down to the lowest common denominator, meaning by which, like when you're training models, as an example, the model completion is dictated by like the slowest entity, because like all of the information has to go back like to one source and then bring back like all reduce and all shuffle, and there's these techniques, but it essentially the speed drags to the slowest like component. Or on the inference side, like you have the thing that we as consumers interact with most, like you type questions and stuff, like those are the very tightly coupled systems. And you can't operate in the same way that you would in the cloud era. So you have to have much more resilient systems that are much more, like tightly coupled to the application space. So it's a very different paradigm in that. And, like you see like time and time again, and it's just really businesses need to move quickly, move as quickly as they possibly can to these solutions for the same reason as above, right? Like you want to be able to have a competitive advantage, be it, like speed kills, you're like, or in inverse kills in this market. So like you really have to have like a competitive advantage. The earlier you can adopt it, I think the better like overall as a business that you would be.
So I've been hearing the term neo clouds thrown around. I thought I might ask you, what is that and why is that an important part of the AI topic right now?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, in simple terms, I'm sure it has a very, like agreed upon definition, which I can't pull out right now. But fundamentally, it's just, we have cloud providers and they host, compute and databases, and they host resources, like fungible resources that you could build on top of. Think of it as like Cloud 2.0, where you're getting access to GPUs. And similarly, it's actually an interesting question. I mean, it's timed very well to compare and contrast from like the last question you asked, is that neo clouds are building very specifically for these AI workloads, and they have, either they're building these GPU clusters on behalf of customers because it's, like it's a very hard and specialized skill to get up and running, and how to host them and provide, like interfaces to the customers, and everything is just very different from the cloud. So it is in one ways is just people who rent and provide GPU access, much like that the cloud providers would provide, databases as an access, but it's so specialized, and they need to move much faster than what the cloud providers were able to serve, or what they were like, what their specialty was.
Great. So AI is advancing very rapidly. We're seeing a lot of shifts. When you look into the future, what are some of the trends that you expect and anticipate, and how should business leaders prepare for those?
Uh, I'm going to kind of continue the same theme. I think that the trend that I expect to see is more. I did a blog. I'm a shameless plug about a blog post that I wrote, but I mean, you asked about my question. It's very similar, but it is that I think that there's going to be more consumers of our solutions and our products that don't have heartbeats. I mean, there's going to be more, like right now it is very much humans in the loop, or humans taking advantage of these systems to gain efficiencies, but I think very, very quickly we're going to see, like if you were to watch metrics on, they have, in a SaaS business, they have like DAO, and they have like MAU, monthly active users and daily active users. And I think that really those concepts are going to have to adopt something to to agents, because the more that these technologies roll out, the more that people get comfortable with them, the more that that we can accomplish work while we're sleeping, as an example. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I use it, to help build, our product, and I help to do prototyping. And I see people that are, that we work with, and we're doing like two or three things at one time. And it's just those, downstream impacts are going to be, like what I expect to see happen is that, yeah, products are going to be consumed more and more by agents. It's probably going to happen faster than anyone thinks it is, just because, like we talked about, the rate of change is happening so quickly. And it's kind of like, what is that adage, like very slowly and all at once. It's like, oh, we're gonna have robo taxis, and it's like, yeah, whatever. And then I turn around and there's like Waymos and Teslas everywhere. I live in Austin. It's like you turn around and they're everywhere. So I think it'll be a bit like that.
Yeah, and to that note, when it comes to ROI and expenses, what advice you have for a CIO or a CTO balancing those AI costs? Where should they focus first?
I would say that's a good question. I mean, I will give maybe like an unobvious one, and that is a lot of people generally, particularly in infrastructure. I'll speak on infrastructure for a second. Tend to try to get to the lowest price component, or to drive the cost down. But when it is that you're trying to be like this, term this, leading provider of intelligence, that it is counterintuitive at times that you may want to spend more, right? Like, and there are certain areas that give you, like outsized gains, right? In the networking, it's generally a small spend compared to that much larger, like many zeros bill. but a 2% gain can give you outsized impacts, like 10 to 20% more token efficiency. So I think that it's worth steel manning the counter, and is that how much value are you going to get, instead of like what is the lowest cost that I can drive these things. And again, I think that may have worked generally well for previous errors, but I think that's a counterintuitive that for me. The other one is just on the human element. I think that wherever there's pain in the system, or if you have like a lot of resources to allow them, like allow your team to like experiment, but there is and use these tools, and there is a fine line between like beginning to just burn tokens on like Flappy Bird or something. And so I think certainly, trying to focus on outcomes, like how quickly can we get to market, or like what is our token efficiency, or like how many sites can we stand up, or how many prototypes have we done. And so you try to measure an outcome and see, like how quickly you can get to that, like using these tools. And is that way, like show me an incentive, I'll show you an outcome.
So, if there was one key takeaway that you could leave business leaders with today in regard to AI implementation in this new era that we're in, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say, particularly in with with Aria, it is that AI is here to stay. The cat is out of the bag, so to speak, and it's only going to get faster. And the more that you can engage with companies and the expertise that can help your business, that you can allow your workforce to experiment with very, like very quickly, particularly on like the outcomes for us is deploying, like how quickly can we help our customers stand up, GPU data centers and start, time to first token. So I would say, try to engage. I think many people tend to want to like paint their idealistic self that they can build a lot of these things in house. And what, the data has shown time and time and time again is that generally these internal adoption tools like don't reap the benefits that you would want, either because they drag forever, or they're just not the same as what, like time to market is what you would get if you engage commercial solutions or expertise. And I think the sooner that you can engage in companies that allow you to then get the expertise to understand how these systems are built, to have conversations that we have forward deployed engineers. It's a model that many of the AI companies have, because quite honestly, it's just a skill set that is lacking in a lot of the companies, and even in the neo clouds or in the enterprises and et cetera. And you need somebody to help you along the way, and that you can leverage someone to bootstrap you quickly. I would say try to engage with companies that have the expertise in the domain, as fast as you can. It's not that you can't experiment, but I wouldn't, like, I think that both things can be true. I just wouldn't, try to, pave a way yourself while everyone in the industry is like passing you by.
Yeah, those collaborations and partnerships are critical.
Yeah.
All
Yeah, I
right.
mean, and it helps. We learn a lot, they learn a lot.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your insights with us today.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure. I hope to do it again.
Yes. And thank you to our audience. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll try to respond as soon as possible. And until next podcast, have a wonderful week.